You're listening to the Matt the Stat Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Matt the Stat, where we talk about football, baseball, basketball, and everything sports. So today, for my show, I'll be talking to you guys about the Sunday Night Football matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. I'll give you my analysis and a recap of the game. And not only that, you could say it was one of the most anticipated games of the year after Jerry Jones traded Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers, and it was a game that was circled on everybody's calendar, and I would think it would be circled on Micah Parsons' calendar to get some revenge on what used to be his former team, the Dallas Cowboys. But before I give you guys analysis and a recap of the game, I hope you guys are enjoying your Wednesday. I've definitely been enjoying my Wednesday. It has been a good day for me so far. Hopefully I can give you guys some entertainment and get your guys' minds off of whatever daily life you're going through and, give you a recap of an exciting matchup, and it ends up being a rivalry game, the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. But as of course, I like to give you guys some background on both teams and how have they been doing so far. We talk about the Green Bay Packers. They got a big first win against the Detroit Lions in the opening game of the season. You saw the Green Bay Packers come out and really just kind of dominate at the beginning. You thought, oh my goodness, the defense looks really good. The offense looks really good. Besides the few injuries, the Green Bay Packers, they look like a team to be reckoned with. They got the win against the Lions, then a quick turnaround for the Green Bay Packers playing on Thursday night against the Washington Commanders. They get a win against the Washington Commanders. And their last game, they played at Cleveland, and it really wasn't a great game for the Green Bay Packers. And the Cleveland Browns defense, as good as the Cleveland Browns defense is, they really did shut down the Packers offense. And not only that, the Cleveland Browns ended up making a fourth quarter comeback with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. The Packers were up 10-0 against Cleveland, and the Packers allowed the Browns to come all the way back to win it by the final score of 13-10. And so, the Green Bay Packers going into this game, they wanted to get that bad taste out of their mouths after losing to the Cleveland Browns the week before. For the Dallas Cowboys, well, as you guys know, this is the second time on my show this year that I'm talking to you guys about the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys, we go back to the first week. They played the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly. If, CeeDee Lamb hadn't dropped those couple of passes, they would have beaten the Philadelphia Eagles. They ended up losing 24-20. The offense looked really good for the Dallas Cowboys. The defense really shaky. Week 2 against the New York Giants, a shootout pretty much. Both offenses clicking. It took a game-winning field goal from Brandon Aubrey to win that game by the final score of 40-37. And Brandon Aubrey actually had to kick 3 field goals to get the to propel the Dallas Cowboys to a victory in that game. And then, of course, the Cowboys' last game was against the Chicago Bears in Chicago. An embarrassing game for the Dallas Cowboys, losing to the Chicago Bears by the final score of 31-14. The defense so far for the Cowboys has been historically bad. And, well, the Cowboys defense really didn't do much and didn't really ever stop Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. And you saw the Bears dominate that game and win big time against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, going into this game, and the biggest headline going into this Green Bay Packers and Dallas Cowboys game is the fact that Micah Parsons, who was with the Dallas Cowboys at the beginning of training camp back in Oxnard, California, we talked about the dispute that's been going on with Micah Parsons. He was there. Jerry Jones, the day before their very first training camp practice, went on air went on the press conference live and said that they didn't need Micah Parsons. He brought up injuries and, brought up some real disrespectful kind of stuff. And Micah Parsons, well, not too happy about hearing that. And nor, if I was a player hearing that coming from my boss, I would not be too happy. And, here we go. So the contract saga continued throughout all the time the Dallas Cowboys were in Oxnard. It even continued about a week before the Cowboys' first game. And, well, Jerry Jones decided to trade Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers. That would be a earth-shattering move for the entire NFL. And it sent shockwaves through the NFL with Micah Parsons getting traded. So, that being said, here we are. The Dallas Cowboys taking on the Green Bay Packers in week number 4 of the NFL season. And the Green Bay Packers, they got Micah Parsons. So far the defense has looked really good for the Green Bay Packers with Micah Parsons. And Micah Parsons, he's been playing pretty well for the Green Bay Packers. And the Packers offense, other than sputtering last week against the Cleveland Browns, the offense is still pretty dangerous. Right now, yes, the Green Bay Packers, they're a bit banged up. They don't have Jaden Reed. They don't have Christian Watson, two of their top receivers. They do have Romeo Doubs, who's been playing really well. So, the Packers a bit banged up on the offensive side of the ball, but this Packers team still doing some really good things. So let's get into this game. And not only that, for the Dallas Cowboys, they did not have CeeDee Lamb, who ended up leaving the game against Chicago with a high ankle sprain, and he was out for this game. Not only that, the week before that, the Cowboys had lost their starting center, Cooper Beebe, to an ankle injury, and they also lost their starting right guard. Their rookie first-round draft pick, Tyler Booker, was also not available for the Dallas Cowboys going into this game. So let's jump right into the game. The Packers, they would start with the ball to begin the game, and they would start with a Love swing pass to Jacobs, then a Love deep pass completion to wide receiver Matthew Golden, a swing pass to Kraft, then a pass completion to Tucker Kraft to put them in the red zone, and then capped by a shoulder fade to Romeo Doubs to make it 7-0 Green Bay. So right off the bat, talking about how bad the Dallas Cowboys defense has been, well, the Green Bay Packers, they come out, they hit the Cowboys with an explosive pass play down the field to Matthew Golden, their rookie first-round draft pick, and the Packers waste no time getting it into the end zone, and the Packers go up 7-0. Cowboys' first offensive drive of the game, the Cowboys go 3-and-out. Green Bay gets the ball right back, and the Packers start with a bootleg to Doubs for a first, a good run from Josh Jacobs, an end around to Golden for a first. Then a Packers penalty would pretty much kill the drive for the Green Bay Packers, and they would have to punt. So the Dallas Cowboys, they get the ball right back. They start with a Prescott bootleg to tight end Ferguson, then a Prescott completion to Williams for a first, and the drive would end up stalling. Cowboys would have to punt. Packers' next possessions. Now this is the Packers' third possession of the game. The Packers start with a screen pass to Wilson for a big gain and a good run from Emmanuel Wilson. That would end the first quarter, so still the same drive starting the second quarter. Then a too many men penalty on the Dallas Cowboys. Then a Love pass completion to tight end Musgrave. Then a Josh Jacobs run for a first. A holding call on the Packers. Then a scrambling, a Love scrambling to his left, finding Jacobs for a first, and the drive would be capped by a Love TD pass to Doubs, and the extra point would end up getting blocked, and it would be a return for 2. So now it's 13-2. It's 13-2 Green Bay after the blocked field goal attempt. And it used to be when you blocked a field goal and you return the ball back for a touchdown, it would usually end up with 6 points and it'd be called a touchdown, but now it's called, I guess, a touchback or something like that. I'm not quite sure what it is, but now it's only 2 points. And so the Dallas Cowboys now have 2 points on the board. It's 13-2 Green Bay. The Packers offense looked really dangerous. And at this point in time, you're kind of going, okay, are the Green Bay Packers really... It kind of looks like the same thing again with this Dallas Cowboys defense, giving up explosive plays. Packers go right down the field. They get in the end zone. And while they're up 13-2 on the Dallas Cowboys. So the Cowboys' next drive would start with a holding call. Then an illegal formation penalty on the Cowboys would end up ending the drive. And the Cowboys, they would have to punt. The Packers would start with an unnecessary roughness penalty on the Cowboys. Then the drive would stall. Packers would punt. The Cowboys would get the ball back. They would start with a Prescott completion to Pickens for a first. Then a Prescott swing pass to Miles Sanders. Then a Williams run for a first down. Then a Prescott completion to Ryan Flanoy for a first. Then a run from Sanders for a first, followed by a play-action pass to Pickens. Then a Prescott deep pass to Pickens for a first. And the drive would be capped by a quarterback draw for a touchdown. And now the Green Bay Packers lead has been cut down, and it's now a 13-9 Green Bay Packers lead. So one thing that you would not have expected, a draw coming from the Dallas Cowboys inside the Packers 5-yard line. Well, they call a quarterback draw, and Dak Prescott gets in the end zone for a rushing touchdown. So now it's 13-9 Green Bay. The Packers' next possession, they would get a first down, but Jordan Love would fumble. It would be recovered by the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys now have the ball back. So just right when you think the Green Bay Packers were going to run away with this game, here comes the Dallas Cowboys. They put a nice drive together, and they get in the end zone, and then Jordan Love fumbles the ball, and the Dallas Cowboys now all of a sudden have all the momentum, and their next drive, which would just be one play, it would be a Prescott TD pass to wide receiver George Pickens for a touchdown, and now it is 16-13 Green Bay at halftime, and the Cowboys, going into halftime, they have all the momentum. And here's the thing, and this is what I want to talk about here a little bit. You kind of saw in that first quarter, the Dallas Cowboys defense looked mostly the same, giving up explosive plays all over the place. It didn't look really good, no pass rush. Jordan Love having all day to sit back in the pocket and throw the ball, go through his first, second, third reads. And it just didn't look good early on. And then the second quarter, you kind of saw the Dallas Cowboys defense start to gain a little bit of a pass rush. Jadeveon Clowney did make his Dallas Cowboys debut for the Cowboys on Sunday night. And, you kind of saw the pass rush start to have a little bit of an effect in the second quarter. They got to Love a couple of times, and, they forced that fumble. The Dallas Cowboys forced that fumble that gave him the ball back, and then, Dak Prescott hits George Pickens in the end zone for a touchdown right before halftime, and it's a 16-13, Packers are still leading, but, the Cowboys are leading. It's a 16-13 Cowboys lead going into the half. So the Cowboys, they have the lead, and they have all the momentum going into the second half of the game. So the second half of the game, the Cowboys, they would start with a Javonte Williams run for a first down, then a false start on the Cowboys, and the drive would stall. The Dallas Cowboys, they would have to punt. The Packers, they would start with a Love play-action pass to Jacobs for a first, then a pass to Golden, then a couple of penalties on Dallas, followed by a Josh Jacobs run for a big gain, a bootleg to Tucker Kraft, capped by a Josh Jacobs rushing touchdown, and the next thing you know, the Green Bay Packers have regained the lead, and it's 20 to 16 Green Bay. So the Dallas Cowboys, a couple of penalties, kind of helped that Packers drive and helped the Packers get in the end zone. And Josh Jacobs, who else? I mean, Josh Jacobs, who has been terrific since he came to Green Bay last year. And, I mean, it's now 20 to 16 Green Bay. So the Cowboys' next drive, they would start with a 3rd and 6 and convert on a 3rd and 6 with a Prescott pass to Turpin, then a screen pass to Turpin for a first, then a run by Javonte Williams, then a completion to Flournoy, then an end around to Flournoy for a first, then a completion to Ferguson for a first, capped by Prescott TD pass to Ferguson. And well, now the Dallas Cowboys have the lead. So now it's 23 to 20 Dallas. And well, the Packers get the ball right back. So the Green Bay Packers, they start with a couple of runs from Jacobs, then a Jordan Love run for a big gain, then a run from Emmanuel Wilson for a first, capped by Josh Jacobs rushing touchdown. And once again, here we go. We have another back and forth game. It's now 27 to 23 Green Bay Packers now. So now the Packers, they jump back out on top, and the Cowboys, they would start their next drive with a converting on a 3rd down again, this time on a third and 3 with a Prescott pass to Turpin. The Cowboys would convert on a 4th and 2 with Prescott finding Pickens, then a face mask penalty on the Packers, then a Javonte Williams run for a first, and it would be capped by a Javonte Williams rushing touchdown. So once again, another lead change. Now the Cowboys have the lead. So now it's 30 to 27 Dallas. And the Packers, they would start their next drive with converting on a 3rd down with Love finding Dobbs for a first, then a Love pass to Wilson for a first, then a personal foul penalty on the Cowboys, then a Josh Jacobs run capped by a Love TD pass to Romeo Dobbs. For the 3rd time in this game, a Packers drive would be capped off with a Jordan Love TD pass to Romeo Dobbs, and it's now a 34 to 30 Green Bay Packers lead. So all this back and forth, we've had about already 4 or 5 different lead changes at this point in the game. And I mean, right now, you're just looking at this game and you're going like, well, here we go again. You know, the Cowboys' home opener was a shootout with the New York Giants, and the Cowboys' second home game of the season is a shootout with the Green Bay Packers. So it's 34 to 30 Green Bay. The Cowboys' next drive would start with a Prescott completion to Ferguson, then a pass completion to Tolbert, capped by a Prescott TD pass to George Pickens, and the Packers, now all of a sudden it's the Dallas Cowboys getting in the end zone once again. So it's now 37 to 34 Dallas. So Dak Prescott finding George Pickens, and well, guess what? George Pickens, I mean, look, no CeeDee Lamb, and George Pickens, he stepped up and he said, okay, I need to step up. I need to step it up because CeeDee Lamb is not available. And George Pickens, he definitely did that in this game. He definitely stepped up. So it's 37-34 Green Bay. It's 37-34 Dallas. They have a chance to win this game. And the only thing they need to do is make sure that Green Bay doesn't get in the end zone. But the problem is there was still about a minute 46 to go in the fourth quarter, and that was still a lot of time for Jordan Love and this Green Bay Packers offense to put something together. And the Packers, they would start with a Love pass to Jacobs for a first, then a completion to Malik Heath, then a Jacobs run for a first. And the Packers, well, they would end up having to settle for a field goal, and it's now tied at 37 at the end of regulation. And well, here we go. We go into overtime, and this is the first game this year that I've recapped that has gone into overtime. So, overtime. The Dallas Cowboys, they would win the toss. In overtime, they would take the ball first, and the Cowboys, they would start with a Javonte Williams run for a first, then a Prescott completion to Pickens for a first, a bootleg to Schoonmaker, then Prescott rolling to his right, completing a pass to Tolbert. The drive would end up stalling in the red zone, and the Cowboys, they would have to settle for a field goal, and it is now 40-37 Dallas. So now, guess what? Now that with the new overtime rules, it's not just, get in the end zone and the game's over. It's now you have to stop the other team as well. So the Cowboys, they have to stop the Green Bay Packers from getting in the end zone. And they also have to stop them from getting in field goal range to tie it. So a touchdown would win the game here for the Green Bay Packers. They would start with a Love pass to Wicks, then an illegal man downfield penalty on the Packers. Then on a 4th and 6, the Dallas Cowboys with a chance to win this game right here on this play to win it. Love would find Matthew Golden for a first. So here we go. We're still going. Then a couple of good runs from Wilson, then a completion to Wicks for a first, then a completion to Dobbs, and, some poor clock management towards the end of the game there by the Green Bay Packers. I think they let about 15 seconds run off the clock before they snapped another play off. And by the time they did that, and that play ended up being an incomplete pass, they only had 1 second to go in overtime. So bring out the field goal unit for the Green Bay Packers. They would end up nailing the field goal. And for the first time ever that I've been doing this show and recapping these games, the game ends in a 40-40 tie. So for the first time, we have a game that ends in a tie. And I have to tell you, I don't think I've ever heard that before. A 40-40 tie, so no one really wins the game. And, that's how this game ends. But quickly, before I get into my final thoughts and all that, let's go over the stats here really quick. Jordan Love, he completed 31 of his 43 passes for 337 yards and 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. Josh Jacobs had 22 carries for 86 yards and 2 TDs. Jacobs also had 4 receptions for 71 yards. So that just goes to show you how good Josh Jacobs is. He's not just good in the run game, he's also good out of the backfield in the pass game as well. Josh Jacobs had a big night for the Green Bay Packers. And Romeo Doubs had another big night for Green Bay. He had 6 receptions for 58 yards and 3 touchdowns. Then for the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, he completed 31 of his 40 passes for 319 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Javonte Williams had 20 carries for 85 yards and 1 touchdown. And George Pickens had 8 receptions for 134 yards. So that's really the stats for this game. And really, we talk about this game. The big conversation was Micah Parsons' revenge against his former team, the Dallas Cowboys, and all the drama that happened even before training camp even started. So, and really a drama that had been going on for quite some time at this point, even long before training camp ever started. Micah Parsons wanting more money. He pretty much held in and showed up to Oxnard for training camp. He was there. He never practiced, but he was there. He was out there on the field, but just not in a helmet or pads or anything, just kind of watching. And then the next thing you know, just a little over a week before the Cowboys' first game of the season, Micah Parsons ends up getting traded to the Green Bay Packers. And, all what he did was just make the Green Bay Packers even better, because now you have 2 dangerous edge rushers in Rashawn Gary and you have Micah Parsons. So, and then, the Green Bay Packers offense is still dangerous, even with all the injuries that they have right now. And once they get Jaden Reed and Christian Watson back at wide receiver, I think this unit the wide receiving unit in this Packers offense just only gets more dangerous. So that being said, what do I think about the Dallas Cowboys? Well, let's just say this. Dak Prescott, once again, played played outstanding, making great decisions, not putting the ball in harm's way. I mean, he did a lot of good things in the game. I mean, once again, a slow start for the Cowboys. But Dak Prescott, he did do a great job. You saw George Pickens step up. You saw a lot of other guys for the Dallas Cowboys step up, even with all the injuries. I mean, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Booker, and CeeDee Lamb, none of those guys playing on Sunday night. And, CeeDee with a high ankle sprain. Obviously, we know Cooper Beebe has an ankle injury. And I think it's also a high ankle sprain for Cooper Beebe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was a high ankle sprain for Cooper Beebe. And then you also have Tyler Booker, who was their first-round draft pick, 12th overall by the Dallas Cowboys. And, well, he ends up not being able to go in this game. So, the Dallas Cowboys, they had injuries, but you know what? I have to tell you, the defense, they definitely played better than they did the first 3 weeks. Now, they still gave up 40 points. That's still a problem. The Cowboys defense still gave up over 30 points. They gave up 40. That's not very good. But you actually saw the Cowboys able to generate somewhat of a pass rush. And even though Jadeveon Clowney, he really didn't do much in the game in his Cowboys debut, but the Cowboys were able to generate somewhat of a pass rush. They were able to contain Jordan Love and this Packers offense a bit. And, the Cowboys defense, they're still not great. I mean, they did get Deron Bland back for this game. They still had Trayvon Diggs, but Trayvon Diggs really hasn't looked like himself through the first 3 weeks of the season. And, still really doesn't look like himself even in the fourth week. And now here we are, we're heading into week number 5 of the NFL season. But overall, what did I think about the Dallas Cowboys? Well, they did a pretty good job. I mean, offensively, we already know what the Cowboys are going to do, or we're going to be able to do offensively. They do have a good offense, and their offense still ran pretty well, even without a couple of their best guys out there, and especially their best receiver in CeeDee Lamb. But I didn't think the Dallas Cowboys played terrible. I think the offense played great, just like how they have been. Obviously, the week before that against Chicago, not a really great offensive showing from the Cowboys. But Dak Prescott, I mean, he's playing really well. You see the leadership from Dak on the sideline. He's keeping his teammates positive. He's giving them fist bumps, all sorts of stuff, just trying to keep him in the game. And, I think Dak Prescott is one hell of a leader. And you've seen it here through the first 4 weeks. Dak Prescott trying to keep positive and keep the team positive and keep playing. And, you saw that once again from Dak Prescott. So some really good things from the Cowboys offense. And, you thought, okay, well, here we go again, because at the beginning of the game, it just looked like the Green Bay Packers were going to run away with it. And, their first 3 possessions, 2 of their first 3 possessions, they got in the end zone. So it just didn't look good. And then I think what kind of woke up the Dallas Cowboys is when they got that blocked field goal, when they got that blocked extra point attempt, and it was returned back for 2 points. And, you kind of saw the Dallas Cowboys wake up at that point, and they started to play. The defense did better. They were able to generate somewhat of a pass rush, make Jordan Love uncomfortable. And you kind of saw that in that game Sunday night. And then for the Green Bay Packers, well, talk about embarrassing losses. The Green Bay Packers also came off an embarrassing loss against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. They were up 10-0 with under 5 minutes to go in the game, and they allowed Joe Flacco and the Browns to come back and beat them by the final score of 13-10. So the Packers were also coming off an embarrassing loss. And, well, they played their offense, even with all the injuries, still played outstanding. You saw Jordan Love able to make some good throws. You saw Josh Jacobs. The offense really runs through him. I really think that the Packers offense really runs through Josh Jacobs. If Josh Jacobs is going, this offense is going. And Josh Jacobs, I mean, since he's come to Green Bay, which he came to Green Bay last year, I mean, you've just seen this guy show that he's one of the best running backs in the league. He can do it all. He can run in between the tackles. He can run outside the tackles. He can do a lot more out of the backfield as a pass catcher. So Josh Jacobs, I mean, he's tremendous, and he's having a good year so far. There's still some things that the Green Bay Packers need to work on. I mean, defensively, the Green Bay Packers defense did not look as good as they have the first, couple of weeks. And, Green Bay, they didn't look really great, but, I mean, it's to me, it's kind of like this. The Green Bay Packers, they're a good team. Is there some things they need to work on? Yes. And that's where I'm going to leave it at. There's some things they need to work on. But overall, I think once you get those injuries like, Jaden Reed and Christian Watson back, I mean, I think this offense is still going to be extremely dangerous. And, the Packers still had a run game. I mean, they used Josh Jacobs. They also used Emmanuel Wilson, and Emmanuel Wilson looked pretty good, too, in this game. So, good run game. I mean, the run game is kind of what leads the Packers to get into that play-action game and then throw the ball over your head. And, the Green Bay Packers offense, I think they're only going to get better. I think the Packers are hurting a little bit, not having a couple of their top weapons in there, guys like a Reed and a Watson. But overall, the Green Bay Packers, they mixed the run and the pass. They looked pretty good. There was a little bit between like the second and third quarter where it was kind of like, okay, Jordan Love, he looks a bit uncomfortable, and, he doesn't have time to throw back there, but, the Packers, they were still able to move the ball down the field and get in the end zone, and you saw that. So, pretty much, for Green Bay, Jordan Love looked pretty good. The Packers, they definitely played way better than they did against the Browns. The Cowboys, they played better. They played way better after the Chicago Bears. I mean, the defense, they played somewhat better. They did a good job. They were able to generate a pass rush a little bit for the first time this season. So that was good sign. That was a good sign to see from the Cowboys defense. And the offense, I mean, like I said, I think the Cowboys offense, they have a very explosive offense, and their offense was still somewhat explosive, and George Pickens really stepped up. I mean, he had 134 yards receiving at the end of the game. Now, as far as the tie goes, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think any team is really satisfied with a tie. I mean, of course you want to win the game. So I don't think the Cowboys nor the Packers are really happy about ending the game in a tie. I'm not really a big fan of this in the game as a tie after overtime. I think there should be, still maybe a second overtime period to try to win the game. But, I understand it. You're trying not to get the players injured. I get it. They're tired, and, usually when you're really tired, that's when injuries do mostly happen, is when you get really tired, and it's usually around that fourth quarter, and then you go into overtime, and the injury risk only gets even higher at that point. So, I understand it, but I'm not really a big fan of the tie thing after overtime is up, and no one has really clearly won the game. But anyways, I mean, great game, 40-40, tied, game ends in a tie. First time ever on this show that I've had to do a game where it ends in a tie. I don't think that's ever happened before, and I've never really heard of a tie before in the NFL until now. So that being said, that's all the time that I have for today on the show. I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. Hopefully I gave you guys, or if you guys are at work or whatever you might be doing, having something to eat, hopefully I gave you guys a few minutes to kind of get your minds off of daily life for a little bit, for however long that may be. So also make sure to tune in every week, because I will have an NFL game recap for you every single week of the NFL season. That includes the postseason in January, and of course the Super Bowl in February. So you don't want to miss. Tune in every week. I will have an NFL game recap for you every single week. And not only that, make sure to tune in because my next show, I will be talking to you guys about the Major League Baseball playoffs. So don't want to miss it because there is a lot coming up. But also make sure you hit that subscribe button, click the link in the notifications, click that like button for sure. Also subscribe as well. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe because, I tell you what, you are missing a lot right now because the NFL season is off. You got the NFL recap, and I'm going to give you an NFL recap every week, and I also got some Major League Baseball playoffs coming up for you guys. So don't want to miss. You're listening to the Matt the Stat Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Matt the Stat. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday afternoon.